going on, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode on 4GQ TV. We have a very special guest, and I'll get to him just a moment. Real quick, panel, we have Paris to my left, we have Paul, we have Dion, and we have the ever amazing and talented Jeff Smith. What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, nice to be with you guys. We just got the news like right before we turned on the recording that Neil Adams passed away. One of my biggest heroes in comic books. I'm going to take me a second to let this sink in, man. That is a heartbreaking thing to hear.
It's
pretty tough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I was the one to break it to you.
Well, somebody had to. No, I'm glad you did. I didn't know. Yeah. I can't believe it. Yeah. Okay, all right, onward.
He definitely was a pillar in the comic industry and did a lot. So
yeah, not only just into art, but just pushing for artists to get their artwork back and all that kind of stuff. Credits,
yeah.
It's a big deal.
A key figure in the industry for sure. So.
All right.
Well, Paris has a question he usually likes to start off with and ask. So Paris.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, we do. We normally start off our shows asking a very intense question. It's, there's no right or wrong answer to it. It's basically, do you eat pineapples on pizza? Yes or no? It's one of our sort of icebreakers.
That is a no. That's a no.
Yes.
That's a no.
Another no. Yes.
That is the correct answer. That is the correct answer. Yes.
However, I do eat jalapenos.
Oh, so do I. Oh yeah.
All
you eat jalapenos? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Jalapenos
awesome.
On pizza too? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Jalapenos on pizza.
That is definitely a thing. Definitely a thing.
That's okay because it's better than pineapple on pizza. Yes.
What if you want jalapenos with pineapple on your pizza?
I will eat pineapples on a pizza. If it's
you're not going to go buy one,
it's a no.
Right?
It's a no.
Yeah. You wouldn't go in the store and buy one, but if you were like at a party or a house party, somebody.
Yeah, I would totally eat it. I would totally eat it.
So, Jeff, I just want to go ahead and start off and thank you for coming on the show. It's a real pleasure getting to talk to you. I mean, you are somebody that I have always looked up to. Your artwork in Bone and the way that Bone was designed was it was comical, it was simple, it was fun, it was friendly. And it's something that I spent many hours reading and entertaining myself with growing up as a child. So thank you for that awesome entertainment. How did you get started in comics? What made you get into this?
I was just a passion from very early on. I grew up in the 60s. I was like 5 when the first Charlie Brown Christmas special was on TV. And I loved the Sunday comics. I especially loved Pogo and Peanuts. I loved the cartoons on Saturday morning. Back then, it was mostly like the old theatrical shorts, like Tom and Jerry and Bugs Bunny, the theatrical Looney Tunes and stuff. And I just loved cartoons. Other stuff that was like regular shows on TV, like Gilligan's Island. I mean, it's all right. It was funny, but there's something in comics, especially something like Peanuts, where Charlie Brown would get embarrassed or he'd be made fun of, he'd be humiliated, and you could see it on his face, one squiggly line and 2 dot eyes and like little shines around his pupils. That was real stuff that as a kid that I experienced and knew about, like on the playground and stuff like that. And there was nothing like that anywhere else. So for me, comics was where I saw something real. Pogo was that way. Drawing is a different aspect to it. I was fascinated by drawing. I loved trying to draw Woody Woodpecker or whatever. So it was a lifelong love. I collected Pogo books, which were like Calvin and Hobbes collections or something, but a Pogo by Walt Kelly, and I just adored them. The drawings, and there were these big fat black and white books with some of the best drawing cartoons I'd ever seen. So I guess that I was always in love with cartoons, but it wasn't until like college where I said I kind of want to make a go at this. So I actually went to OSU, Ohio State, and they had a student newspaper with like, hey, we got Dion. Hey, brother.
Mhm.
So then we got, so they had like 50,000, they had a readership of 50,000 every day for 5 days a week. And I talked them into letting me do a daily comic strip. And I did that for like 4 years at a daily strip. It was Bone. It was proto Bone. It was called Thorn at the time. But it was really the same kind of comic.
Yo, that's dope that you went to OSU. Shout out to OSU, big brother state. So it sounds like to me you're a big fan. You like to laugh, right? You like comedic comics, right? That's what it sounds like. So that's more of your.
Well, I was like I said, a big fan of Neil Adams. The most important comic books, the most important thing for me was getting Neil Adams, Batman, and then Green Lantern and
Oh yeah.
Deadman was, and he did Brave and the Bold for a while.
Oh, you like Deadman's funny.
Oh yeah, Deadman. He and Steranko, Neil Adams and Steranko would do these really fucked up panel layouts where they would like, if you kind of held the book away from them, you could see that the whole panel page like made a face.
Mhm.
But each panel was like part of the face where he's falling off a cliff or something like that. And Steranko did that as well. But I was much more into like the superheroes and stuff in comic books. But I loved it. Kubert, who he did Sergeant Rock and he did Tarzan. I loved him. Those two guys were like those were the twin pillars. I didn't really get Kirby until he went to DC and did this lunatic run on Jimmy Olsen and the Fourth World stuff, crazy stuff. I mean, I was only like,
and all that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was like, I was maybe 12 when he did that, and I'm telling you what, even when I was 12, I was like, this is far out. This is crazy stuff. He had Don Rickles' twin brother was in the comic. I forget his name was. I can't remember.
I've got to say the Neil Adams, when they did the Green Lantern, Green Arrow crossover stuff, they did like those 6 issues. That's one of my favorite sets. The artwork in those books is amazing.
They went to discover America in a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And one of the little giant blue-headed guys. That was fantastic. That was really good. So yeah, no, I like both. I like all kinds.
Okay, I mean, that's dope.
Hey, I collected Archie comics. I collected
Archie. Archie.
I had Archie.
Yeah, Archie and Little Lotta.
Oh yeah.
The Harvey comics.
I still
I like that all.
I still got some of the old Archie comics from my mom. My mom and dad collected comics, and my dad was more into like, the DC, and then he liked the horror comics, the House of Horrors or House of Secrets, whatever it was back then. And my mom always went for like the Casper and all that other Archie stuff. So I got a whole bunch in my garage of like the old Popeye and all that stuff.
Actually about a year ago, I was doing a little remodeling on my studio, and I had to get rid of some stuff, and I had to come to terms with some boxes of comics that I hadn't opened in years. And when I was buying comics, nobody put them into bags. They were just just kept them in stacks. They always got rolled. It was a bad system. But I decided to give all my Archie comics to like a friend of mine who had like a 10-year-old. And it was hilarious. Look at these Archies from the 60s, where Archie and Jughead, they all have like big long sideburns, and they all have bell-bottom pants on and groovy clothes. It was great.
Did you ever check out the TV series, Riverdale?
The Riverdale, I didn't actually see that. Not because I didn't want to.
The modern version of.
Yeah, I actually am kind of impressed that they pulled that off.
It's actually not bad.
It's not bad. It's quite a bit darker than the comic store, though.
Yeah.
It go,
Well, I think
goes
it,
place.
comics has kind of followed that. They comics went that direction too, though, right?
Yeah.
Or it's actually still looked like the same Archie. I haven't
Oh,
seen an Archie comic in a while.
I haven't seen the updated comics. I know there's a set based on the series, which means they look more like their series, regulars.
He resembles the original Archie, but he's a lot more modernized and a lot more into being athletic, maybe, than the original Archie was. And
well, I give them props for that. I think that was clever. They needed to do that because the Archie of, I mean, Archie's been around for what, 40, about 60 years or something.
60 years.
Yeah, it's got to be 60. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe more than that. I bet it's closer to 70 or 80. There was definitely 40s comics.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
The original one is hilarious because he's like he's drawn a little more realistically, or they're trying to, and he's more like a 13 or 14-year-old, like Tom Sawyer type of a character.
Yeah, that sort of vibe. Yeah.
It's an interesting take. I was really kind of, when they first announced Riverdale, I'm like, they're going to make this old cheesy comic book into a series. Okay, this should be interesting. It actually ended up not being too bad. Yeah.
I've heard.
So
Go
Jeff, go ahead.
All right,
I
wanted to ask him, but you can wait. I can wait. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so going from that and then, into when you started designing comics and you started designing your characters, what was the first, would you say, official comic project that you worked on?
Well, it was Bone #1. Bone #1 was the first attempt to do a comic book. I got practice though for 4 years. Every single day I did a little 4-panel newspaper strip for the college paper, the Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of learned my craft. I learned kind of how to pace a joke. And I would get feedback from readers who would actually send letters into the newspaper, and they would tell me if something sucked. They had no problem telling me if something sucked. But they would tell me if something was good. Like I could tell when one of the jokes that came directly from the newspaper strip to the book, comic book, was Stupid Rat Creatures, where he jumps on a little branch. I mean, I did that in 4 panels, and I just got this huge reaction. Even my own friends who, knew I did a comic strip, but we never talked about it or anything. They thought that was the funniest thing ever. And so when I moved to try to do a comic book, I took jokes directly from that newspaper strip and redrew them and put them into the book because I knew they worked. So that was sort of
a good idea.
The newspaper, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's where sort of like practice makes perfect. I like the fact that you were drawing in a newspaper and stuff like that. I always wondered, like when I would get newspapers, or books or something, you would have like the little cutouts of like a small section of a comic. I didn't even know, some of the times I didn't even know the characters, right? It's just sort of some random characters that they just threw in there, right? And it would sort of continue on like a comic strip. So that's cool. I appreciate that. That's awesome to see.
Well, it was good for me because I got to learn really how to control my ink pens and my brushes. And you draw just like in comic books, which are drawn about twice up. The original art's about 10 by 15 as opposed to the comic book size. Same thing with the comic strips. You draw it about twice up. Well, I was able to learn how thin of a line could I make to make a prettier, more beautiful drawing. How thin could it go, and then have it survive shrinking down, being reduced, and then printed, on rough newsprint. And so I learned you could control it. You could make it very thin. There was a limit though. You could only go so thin before it would drop out when you produced it. So things like that. I learned how to letter. It was all good practice. And then I spent a couple of years after college trying to get a newspaper syndicate to pick it up. And nobody was interested. Nobody liked the mix of humans and monsters and little cute cartoon characters.
Did you ever do any for the school since you was up in there? You do any kind of,
you mean like classes?
Like any kind of artwork for the newspaper, the articles for the school read?
Oh yeah. They would occasionally ask me to illustrate something. I would do that. I did like one editorial cartoon, and it was really mean to Ronald Reagan, and everybody really got mad at me. And I just said, I don't care that much about that. I'm not going to get wade into that bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, what I wanted to ask you is, what comic run inspired you to feel like this is definitely your niche? This is where you got to be.
That is
the
an
direction you
excellent
want to be.
I finally, after like 2 years of submitting sample comic strips to these, there were like 2 syndicates that were like encouraging me. They weren't paying me, but they'd want me to say, "Oh, try this," and I would try to make their adjustments without compromising my vision. But I learned a lot in a really intense period where I had to do like 2 weeks worth of comics finished and send them to them, and my ideas got clearer, and I just learned a lot doing that. But I gave up. At one point, I realized nobody was going to buy this, and they were just wasting my time. So I kind of just gave up. And I happened to see an article in the newspaper about The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller's crazy book in 1986. And it was like a 2-page spread in the Sunday newspaper, like in the weekend or entertainment section. And I couldn't believe it. I've never seen any coverage of comic book anywhere. I mean, sometimes you see it now, but that was absolutely amazing to me. So I actually found a comic book store, went into it, bought the first 2 issues of Frank Miller's saga. That's what was out at the time. But then I wandered around the store, and you guys, these kinds of stores are still around, but they were crazy back then. They were like, there was books on tattoos, there was porn, there was bongs. It was like an old, there was a giant cat.
Yeah.
All that shit, plus long boxes of comics and a rack that had comics on it, new comics. And I didn't know about the direct market at the time, but I'm seeing, all the stuff I expect to see, Superman, Spider-Man,
Batman's, Iron Man, all that stuff.
Yeah, that stuff was all there. But then there's all this other shit. There's like some of them on a spinner rack and some of them on the bottom shelf. And it was like Love and Rockets and 8-Ball, these Fantagraphic books. The Tick. I
love the Tick.
About Tick #1.
I love the Tick. Tick.
Oh man, it was those are first comics were so funny. So funny. They're just, and that was a kind of a combination of all those books I just said, because I went home with them all and I went, look at the quality of this. And the Frank Miller book was doing something that I'd never seen a comic book do before. And that was, he didn't put the little exposition box up there to say, meanwhile, in Commissioner Gordon's office. Right. He just went to Commissioner Gordon's office and you knew it. Like, it was almost like in a film, the scene changed. You don't need a narrator to explain where you are or a sign.
Right.
And I was amazed by that. And his pacing was so exciting and kinetic. And, he would control how fast you read it and with what level of excitement. I'd never seen anything like that.
I was going to say that's one of the books where, you read it because you're reading at the pace that it's going and you're bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, and then a splash page where he's like flying in the air. Yeah, I was very excited by that. But I was equally excited by The Tick, which I don't remember if I got it on the same trip, and I don't remember quite how closely those were. I think they might have been a couple years apart, actually. But it was like I had like a 2-year period where I fell to this comic book shop, and the amount of fun Ben Edlund was having making this really, really stupid comic book. You could just see he was out a blast, and that really inspired me. I was like, maybe I can have fun making a stupid comic book. And I saw Cerebral. And that was, I could see Cerebral was someone, Dave Sim, who was taking this very seriously, and he had a lot of readers.
That's another fun book. I used to have that whole collection. I mean, they were a lot of fun.
I enjoyed them until they kind of went.
Yeah.
He and I were actually pretty tight, pretty good friends for a long time, and then he decided we weren't friends anymore. Well, so anyway, that's pretty much where I just kind of fell into this comic shop. It was called The Monkey's Retreat in Columbus, Ohio. And that was a come to Jesus moment where I was like, here it is. This is it. This is it. I had an animation studio that I'd had for a few years that I started with some buddies of mine from college. And we were just doing PSAs and commercials for there were a lot of fast food chains that have national headquarters in Columbus. So we would do little White Castle commercials and a little tiny bit of animation for McDonald's or something like that. And we were doing all right. I didn't think it was fun though, because making commercials is soul killing work. And dealing with advertising agencies.
Yeah.
So I went
restrictive.
It's a thankless job, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So I went to my wife and I showed her all these comics, and she's always been a big supporter of mine. She's always liked my comics, and she likes cartoons and comics also. And I said, I kind of want to sell my animation studio and do underground comics. And I showed her this scene that was happening there. And to her credit, she said, "Oh, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, this was not a conversation. This took place over a period of a few months."
Right.
She said, "Okay, I see what you're talking about. What you need to do." And this is when she first started to be like my partner and help. And we started doing everything together, make all decisions together from this point on. She says, what you need to do is you need to write a business plan, figuring out how this works. Where does the money come from? What's the flow of the product? Figure all that out. When does the money come in? When does it go out? And give me some kind of idea how many books you think you'll sell. And then we'll do it for 1 year. And if we have no hope, if we have any reason to keep going, we'll keep going. But otherwise, we'll plan on, I'll go apply for a job at Disney or something, do some animation. Well, that's what we did. Wrote a business plan. There was, the Diamond and Capital retailers, the distributors, they're not around anymore, but they used to have a warehouse like in every major city. So I went to the Capital distribution warehouse that was in Columbus, met the lady who ran it there, and she was very helpful, very friendly, very welcoming, read my comic, gave me some advice. Her advice was, show this comic, because I had the first issue of Bone made up in Xerox. And she said, show this to somebody in comics and see if you can get a quote. And I bugged a couple friends of mine, and I got the address of Will Eisner, Kim Deitch, and Dixon, who was writing Superman at the time, Chuck Dixon.
Oh.
And I sent those to, and I got the Eisner through the university, because there's a great cartoon library at OSU called the Billy Ireland Cartoon Library and Museum, and it's fantastic. And the woman who founded it is like my mentor. I spent a lot of time with her during college and ate my lunches in the library, or I spent my lunches there. I didn't eat and set my sandwich down on original artwork or anything. But anyway, I sent these out and I got responses from all three. So here I was covered. I had a Superman guy, I had an underground guy, and I had a god, Will Eisner. And I put them in my ad. I took out an ad, and I did the business plan too. I skipped over that part. Took it to because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was out. So I was able to gather a bunch of information and show it to a banker and go, look, we're going to be millionaires by the end of the year. We're going to have toys and a TV show. So the banker actually said he didn't want to give me the money I asked for. He wanted to give me double.
Wow.
So we got started, and it went very slowly. I hope I'm not boring the shit out of you.
No, this is good. We love it.
Yeah, we love this
This
stuff.
is good.
I didn't realize
This is good. This is really good.
let me tell you something. This is your time. So whatever information we don't know that you want to share, this is what we're here for. So definitely
all right, Dion,
take us through
very
that
cool.
story.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm going to back up because I got to tell you a favorite part. That's not something I don't think I talked about it or I've ever even mentioned it before.
Yeah.
But after I sent those letters out to those 3 cartoonists, I went and we had to go through the whole deal of doing business as, setting up a name with a small business association and all that stuff. And one of the things they tell you to do is, get a PO box until you can have a mailing address. So I had a little PO box in downtown Columbus, and I would, after I mailed out the letter to the 3 cartoonists, I'd go there every day, open up my little box. I tell you what, the day I opened it, and that letter from Will Eisner was in there, man,
Wow.
I just floated home. And he said, he gave me a great blurb. And at the end, he put a little asterisk, says, you can use this in any way you want in any ads. And I still put it.
Yeah. That's
Oh, dude, I can't even tell you. I mean, I still drive past that post office downtown and I go,
Oh, you still in Columbus?
yeah, half the year. I live half the year in Columbus in the summer. And I live in Key West, which is where I'm at right now.
Okay, that's what's up. That's what's up.
Nice. Florida too. So
Yep.
we got neighbors.
And I'm
Right.
and I'm
Where
actually
you guys
from
at?
Ohio, so
Yeah.
Columbus is a cousin
Yeah,
of mine.
were you saying your brother, somebody you knew went to Ohio State?
I said, well, yeah, my family, my sister and them live in Columbus. I live in Cincinnati, which is an hour away.
Ah, yeah, I know.
So
That's awesome, man.
And let's see, I'm in Jacksonville.
All right, so you're a little further north.
Yep.
Where are you at? Deanna, where are you at here in Florida?
I'm not. I'm in Ohio. I'm south of Columbus.
Yeah,
That's what I was
Carlos,
saying.
the other one that's in Florida. Carlos, the other one in Florida.
Oh,
Yeah.
Carlos is in Carlo. Are you in Florida?
Yep, I'm in Florida. Yeah,
Where
right
you
now
at?
I'm in Polk County. So we're like in the
I don't
smack.
know.
We're in the middle of Tampa and Orlando.
Yeah.
So about an hour from
No,
less
like
than an hour.
Kissimmee? Is that?
We're not too far from Kissimmee. Yeah, there's
I have a friend.
part of Kissimmee is Polk
Cool.
County.
Yep.
Yeah, no, the weather is spectacular.
It is.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Washington and it's cold and it's rainy and I'm mad at y'all because
I usually try to I don't want to make anybody feel bad, but hey, shall we walk by the pool out here?
I don't think Paris gets to a pool even for a month out of the year,
Yeah.
So the jokes keep coming. I see it's fun hanging around you and everything. So hey, do you want to talk about a potential project or two down the line?
Oh, you meant
Wait,
Phony Bone?
about Bone and Netflix? Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of information. They have canceled the project. Part of the problem was caused by COVID. I was supposed to fly out April 1st, 2020 to start. I was going to fly out to Hollywood. We had the producer that brought me over to Netflix, and I was going to start interviewing staff, animators, showrunners. 2 weeks before the shutdown happened. So flights were all canceled. So I never actually got to go out there, and we lost pretty much the whole first year. We finally, in the fall, were able to get together a little team, but then there was this big executive shuffle that happened that was actually pretty major. And we didn't really get a chance to really get our shit together as much as I would have liked to.
Right.
So I'm giving them a little space, just because we did have a pretty good team, and we could have had a good pitch if we had a little more time. But they kind of surprised us with we prove that this is going to be a good show right now. And I wasn't somehow, because again, this is because of the Zoom and the disconnect. I was not invited to the pitch meeting, and I got word that they told me about it like 2 days beforehand, and we were scrambling trying to make something worthwhile. But other than that, I thought it was pretty shocking how cold it was. It was a cold sign off. It was just like.
Do you think you'll try to pitch it to see if someone else will pick it up? Because I almost think that a part of it is what Netflix just went through with their financial numbers as well. So I don't think it's all your fault, and I would say or your team's fault.
I think you're right, Dan. I think you're totally correct. It was more about them than us.
Right.
I'm just saying we did have I wish there'd have been a film crew documenting my whole journey through this whole thing, because it was just like one what the fuck moment after another, which we constantly got over. We conquered it, like after the executive shuffle, and then a couple months later, they took away the green light power from my guy, and then he quit, and then we're just. I mean, it was just like I said, if we'd had a film crew in there, and it would have been a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know something will happen. I mean, I don't know yet. I mean, they still own the rights. We've got to work that out. They may want to revisit it. We may take it around somewhere else. We'll just have to see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would like
to
see
the whole IP thing when they're running rights.
Yeah. I like to see some fruition of your work for sure. I think it deserves it. So definitely looking forward to it. Hopefully we can get that all ironed out and move forward.
We will get it ironed out. I mean, one of the silver linings of the whole thing was that the story was not about Bone. It was about the financial problems, the stock drop, the shuffling, the decisions they're making. Like
right.
they're just slashing, not just Bone, but many projects.
Yeah, animation in general. Animation in general. But almost every media outlet focused on the cancellation of Bone. That was like the headline for many news stores, and it was a picture of Bone. And the response from people on social media was incredible. I mean, it was trending on Bone for like 2 days, and there was like 70,000 tweets of people just like in shock and outraged that has happened. And so many people said just what you just said, Dion. Something's going to happen. It's not due to you. It's definitely because of their something happened on their end that they trying to find a way to recoup. Is what I look at it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I am excited to see that the fact that you had such a great response from people. So they're and if Netflix, since they own the IP, the rights for being able to produce a show out of it or animation out of it, hopefully they see those responses and know that there's a fan base out there that really want to make this happen, and maybe that will trigger them to do it, and or maybe they will release it and you can shop.
I was going to say release it and shop it to like Amazon or HBO or
any of the other major streaming companies out there, or Disney. I don't know, just the list goes on. So but I think you're in you would be in a good place if it was actually working, but it's but now that you have a lot of support out there, and I was going through the tweets and all that stuff too while we were reviewing some of the backstory of it, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of people out there that are not happy, and they were letting it be known at Netflix hashtags, hashtags and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool, and I'm looking through your store. So folks that are out there, we'll be posting these links in the video. So please go down and look at some of the Bone animation. It have plush toys, there's all sorts of things. I'm giving you like a little promo here because this is some awesome stuff. So I want people to be able to go in and support. Okay. There you go.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say too is that I thought that was, first off, it's really sad what happened because I think Bone is a fantastic character, but it was great to see the support from other artists as well that liked Bone and was out there, and they were saying, oh man, this is one thing that should have never been canceled. And it was good to see that from other comic book artists, that they love your character as much as, a fan like us would. And I think that speaks volumes to your work.
Yeah, it did. It really did help. It took the sting out of the blow a lot. It did. So hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah. Just keep our fingers crossed and let it happen. It's doing a great job. I just think it's just not the time right now, but we can just look towards the future.
Oh, and we hadn't done like, we didn't have a show in production or anything like that. So
right.
So that way it's not like a heartbreaking amount of shit that's
right. Like you went through the whole thing. It's almost being ready for release, and they just say slash, right? And yeah.
That was the COVID part.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say thank you to COVID. I'm not going to.
Yeah, COVID's been a killer. So yeah.
One thing that I definitely want to ask you, Jeff. So when you went from working at the newspaper and getting all the like Will Eisner to look at your comic and celebrate it with you in a sense, how did you get into publishing Bone? How did you get into, was it self-publishing right away? Did you have help from publishers? How did that all work out?
Well, I told you I'd spent like 2 years just getting jerked around by the newspaper syndicates that were just pulling me around. And I was like, I'm not going to send this around to Marvel and DC. And I didn't really know that much about, Fantagraphics and those kind of places yet. But I did really pick up on the Tick, which was kind of self-published, even though his local store kind of helped him, New England Comics, and Cerebral. And I was just looking at those models, and I was just like, I just analyzed them. I sat down with those little black and white books. I started, because I wanted to do it in black and white, because I wanted to do a newspaper strip. So, which to me, I've learned how to do a black and white art. So I was like counting, how many pages is it? It's 24 pages. It's on newsprint. I could see where it was printed, or I asked around and I got a hold of the place that printed it. So yes, I was going self-published right away, because I could see that I didn't know how well it would do. I didn't know if I would. I just figured I need to pay the print run and pay some bills. Vijaya had a really good job. She was a computer programmer. And so we agreed that I would take a year and explore this, do 6 issues and see how it went. First issue did terrible. Second issue sold half as many. The third issue, we could still pay the print bill, but the fourth issue, all of a sudden it got a bunch of press. There was a write-up in the back of the Comics Journal. There was, do you guys remember the Comics Buyer's Guide?
Yes.
It was like a big newspaper. That was an important rag at the time. That was Variety. That was our Hollywood Reporter. And then in the letters pages, there'd be, Paul Chadwick would be talking about something, and John Byrne would be having an argument with somebody. That was the paper. And the two editors, Maggie Thompson and Don Thompson, just loved Bone. I met them at a show. I was promoting. I went to like a retailer conference. Only retailers were invited and publishers. I said, well, I'm a publisher. So I went there. And all the other retailers, all the other publishers sent suits, their sales staff in to like promote what they're going to be doing this year. But I'm the actual cartoonist, so I could like draw pictures for the comics retailers, and they loved it. And pretty soon I had like a little crowd around my booth. And as soon as you get a crowd around the booth, people are like, well, what's going on in there? And so that was really good. And around the corner at the end of the row comes this couple, and they spot my little bone sign, which I had clipped to an easel. I saw them do this. They looked at each other, they stopped, they held hands and practically skipped over to the booth. It was Don and Maggie Thompson. And they wanted to give me like 3 full pages in the next issue of the Comics Buyer's Guide. And they wanted me they were going to print like 9 pages of whatever book I'm working on, and did a big write-up. And that was okay. So now I still got 2 issues to like turn things around, right? And for my six, the issue 5, sales stabilized. And then then all of a sudden I got a videotape in the mail from a producer of a comic book show in Canada, in Toronto, called Prisoners of Gravity. And he says, I want you to watch it all the way to the end, in a little note. So I plug it in and I watch it all the way to the end. So it's very interesting. It's a new concept to see a television show dedicated to comics. And they do some interviews. They would talk about the trends that were going on. And and Neil Gaiman was one of the people they talked to. And at the very end of the show, they said, Neil Gaiman, what are you reading right now? And he went on for 3 minutes about, somebody gave me the first 3 issues of this little black and white book called Bone, and I read it at the airport, and he went nuts over it. And Vijay and I are just sitting there going, is this happening? Is this happening? Punch me. So that was it. We decided that we could keep, we now had enough confidence to extend the deadline and keep going a little bit. And it was around issue 8 that it really started to, we were getting quotes and mentions. People were asking our opinions on stuff, and sales started to double, literally double for like a year every issue, till we were selling something high, above like 60,000 every issue.
Wow.
Which at the time was about what Batman was selling, was about like, because there was a hard time in the industry. Things were rough.
What years was that? What was the years around there?
This would have been like mid 90s. It's not quite the collapse. It wasn't the collapse yet, but we were heading there. We didn't have the speculator collapse. It came in what, 95 or 6. So this was probably 90, 94, 95. I think Batman was selling probably 75,000 copies. If not, I was selling 65 or something like that. I shouldn't talk numbers. I'm an artist. I don't. It's something else.
Hey, but you were doing well. That was good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Self-published too. Like, that's amazing to do that well, self-publish and compete with some of these major publishers. It's not easy to do that. And the fact that you had the respect of artists in the industry, like Neil, in at the end of the video, that is amazing right there. That is, man, that is so cool.
You said Neil. I remember when I met Neil. That was a real meeting one of my heroes moment, because my 2 biggest heroes are Walt Kelly and Karl Barks, who created Uncle Scrooge. They both died when I was very young. Well, not when I was very young, but like I just barely met Karl Barks right when I first got into comics. So yeah, it was a good thing. There was a moment where I felt like, okay, I'm in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's a moment where it's like, oh, I can go up and talk to Frank Miller, and I can go up and talk to. Those are all moments I remember very clearly. I remember Frank Miller at a bar at a hotel near one of these shows, coming up to me, slapping me on the back and telling me that you're going to win an award. You're going to win awards. And I want, come on, let me buy you a beer. He takes me over to Frank Miller, takes me over to a bar and buys me a beer.
Oh wow!
I'm like, this is fun.
This is amazing.
Did you meet all of your heroes working in the industry?
Yeah, no kidding.
Everyone you looked up to?
Yeah, I did. I got to meet everyone, and there were some jerks, but none of the jerks were people that were my heroes. So
Yeah.
Oh,
that was nice.
So,
Yeah.
so what do you view the independent scene now, and like how people, you know, self-publish and get their stuff out? Do you view it easier now than it was back then, or do you know? I know a couple of independent you know, own their own company and everything, and they seem to be doing fine. I just wanted to see what your point of view was.
I think it's changed dramatically since I did it. And so some things are easier and some things are harder. I mean, getting to be reviewed by an industry journal was impossible if you were self-published back then. Getting any oxygen in the Diamond or the catalogs was pretty tough. But I think that's changed. I think people, it's not a stigma to self-publish anymore. Or there's new mutations of it, like Image Comics is an umbrella over, like Robert Kirkman, Skybound imprint, for example. That's his show. He's self-publishing, but he's kind of a member of like a group, a coalition now. So it's changed. Another thing that's changed dramatically is graphic novels. There was, I mean, you had graphic novels, but they weren't something people did on any kind of a regular basis, or that they were kept in print. The first real ones were Mouse, Watchmen, and Dark Knight. And I think you could even include the first Cerebral phone book collection came out. Those all came out in 1986. That was a supernova event for those of us who were watching. I was looking for something like that because I liked my Peanuts and Pogo books. I wanted that in comics. I wanted my Bone books. So there were a lot of us that were really pushing for a real sea change in comic shops. Me, Dave Sim, Colleen Doran, Larry Martyr, Scott McCloud, all these guys, we were a mixture of self-publishers. We were all artists and quasi-intellectuals. Let's put it this way. We talked about comics 24 hours a day. And we would like throw parties in Dave Sim's suite and invite the retailers. And we would really try to talk them into it. Man, we need graphic novels is the trick, man. I mean, right now you buy my issue number 12 and it's up for a couple of months. When issue number 13 comes out, you put it down and you put it in a box. Well, we want people to be able to buy everything from number 1 on always. And think of the difference in profit. There's like a $5 profit if you sell a book versus, $1 or something on a comic book. And that was a long, slow battle. But we finally won that battle. And it did a couple of things. It let us make money. I still make money every day on that very first page of Bow number 1. I sell that every day. The other thing it did is it opened up first the libraries who were interested in a comic book that had a spine that could sit on a shelf. And then eventually into bookstores and Amazon. Because believe it or not, you could not sell a comic book or even the first 3 or 4 or 5 Bone graphic novels. You could not sell them on Amazon. They did not sell comic books or really self-published stuff back then. So so much has changed. It is almost apples and oranges for me. I just think that the people that are doing it, the people that choose this route, they have some kind of drive that is just going to make them make comics. They're going to figure it out. And if they get far enough, they'll get a hold of me and I'll help them out.
Nice.
One other thing I want to ask you while we're on Bone before we move to your newest project is, so as a kid or, adolescent, I remember going into the comic book store and there was like first print and second print and third print and fourth print. And you had a lot of print runs of Bone, which I think is amazing because it became so hot of a comic. Everybody wanted it at one point. How many print runs did you end up going through?
I think 10. I think after when the graphic novel started coming out after the first 6, there was less. Most of them just went to like 1 or 2, maybe 3 printings. But the first few issues were like 10 printings or something like that. And that was a little controversial at the time because, again, the collector's market they wanted one comic book in a box, bagged and boarded. And as I recall, Bone, I don't remember which issue it was, but when I put out the first comic book, the first graphic novel collection, I know Wizard had a price guide in the back. And at that time, Bone #1 was valued at $300. Well, the next month, it was like $150. It dropped in half. And I called the Wizard offices and I said, what the fuck is that? What are you doing? And they said, well, you took the value away because you put it out this book they can get the first 6 issues for like $12.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but there's only one first printing of Bone #1, which eventually is kind of how I think people look at it. But that was the kind of situation we were. He pretty much told me you are messing with the business model by doing graphic novels. So
interesting, because I was a collector, so I always look for the first editions. That's what I'm all about. That's the only one that mattered. Well, from a speculation standpoint, that's the only one that does matter.
It is, and it exists. There weren't. I think there was only 3,000 printed total. Yeah. So there they are, and you can still find them kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Not really.
Well, speaking of Wizard, I remember that you had a collaboration with Wizard. I don't remember what the number was, but there was a Bone, I think Bone 1.5 or a Bone half something. And it came with a certificate signed by you. I have that in my garage somewhere. I ordered that one. Through Wizard. So that was really cool.
I did a couple of things like that with Wizard, and there was another one called Hero that was sort of a Wizard knockoff. I did a couple of things like that.
Yeah, let's jump into Tuki.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it. I probably should go in about 15 minutes.
Yeah. Let's jump into Tuki and then we'll wrap it up. You want to go ahead and explain to us what Tuki is and who he is?
Here we are.
What's going on?
This is Tuki. This is Tuki book 1. It's a black and white book. It's self-published. It's excellently printed, I will say. It lies flat perfectly. No cracking in the spine. It's sewn. Nothing but quality here at Cartoon Books. It's self-published, just like Bone originally was self-published. My second book was called Wrestle. It was also self-published. My computer's leaning on her. I would show you. Well, maybe I'll pull it out. Anyway. This is Wrestle. There we go.
Look at that. That's beautiful.
It is a big, fat hardcover. And this is the only one I did that's in color. All my stuff's usually in black and white.
All right.
Wow.
But it's sort of a film noirish kind of let's see if I can get that there.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
So this was fun. It was a sort of a sci-fi noir kind of thing. It was parallel universes. There's so many parallel universe things now with the multiverses. This was a multiverse thing with Tesla conspiracies. Before all that Spider-Verse. This though is comes out of my love of evolution. I'm a huge, what's the deal with where did we come from? How did it happen? And I've always been fascinated by it. I read a lot of books about evolution. I actually went to Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania in 1995. And I saw the Olduvai Gorge, which is where the famous archaeological, well, it's the Leakeys, the archaeological family of Lewis and Mary Leakey, who found all these fossils of our ancestors. And it was the first time we really realized what they were looking at, and that evolution, has very deep roots in Africa. I mean, when I was standing there in Olduvai Gorge, I almost had like chills, because I was like, right on this spot, over millions of years, every stage of evolution happened and played out here. They loved and they lived and they died right here. I thought that was very fascinating. And I actually had a vision while I was there. And I write about it in the book a little bit. And I was standing down at the bottom of the gorge, and I was looking up at the top. I could kind of see palm trees and stuff just kind of gently swaying in the breeze. And I kind of imagined all the different stages of evolution: the Australopithecus afarensis, Australopithecus africanus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus. I mean, there was multiple species. I could kind of see them almost like in a ghostly image in my imagination, walking along the top of the ridge, almost like as if they were like in a marketplace or something like that. And I was really affected by that vision. I didn't know I was going to make a comic like that until many years later, almost 30 years later. I was reading a book about fire, about when fire came into the picture. And experts are pushing it further and further back all the time. And we now are almost sure that we started to control fire and eat cooked food 2 million years ago. And as I started to focus on this focal point of 2 million years ago in Africa, there were multiple human species were still alive. Lucy, the famous Lucy, one of the earliest of human steps in our evolution. She, Lucy, for anybody out there who doesn't know, was the fossilized skeleton of a female who had features in common both with apes and with humans. Like, she was basically human from the waist down. She had the pelvis and this upright stance. That was a big deal when I was 14. They discovered that fossil. There was TV shows about it. There were specials. It was in every magazine, Life magazine. It was a big freaking deal when Lucy was discovered. And I was hooked from that point on. Wow. But so this point, 2 million years ago, all of these species are still around, including Homo erectus, who is the fire bringer. This is the one. And fire changed our anatomy. Up until then, hominids were more like the bodies of apes, like they got those big bellies because it takes a lot of real estate of intestines to digest, just roots and berries and raw meat. So suddenly you get protein much more efficiently out of heated up cooked meat. And so that changed us. We also know that 2 million years ago, we started to shed our hair. They know that by they're looking at the DNA of lice and stuff. I won't go into detail, but they do know that happened 2 million years ago. So everything's happening right here, 2 million. And I thought that no one, to my knowledge, has ever set a story there. And that is the moment where only one comes out. Only we come out of that situation. So I thought that would be a very great story, and that's what we have. So this is Tuki. Nice. He's a lone wanderer, and he slowly encounters other rival species, and some of them do not like the use of fire. They're anti-fire, and they kind of think you're trying to replace us. And so that's where the story gets interesting.
Yeah, I can see it now. Jason Momoa playing Tuki in a show. Just I can see it My vision to see it's clear. The picture's clear.
I'll show you some pictures. So here's some of the characters. Here is Tuki eating around the fire with these 3 young Homo erectus children that he's picked up. And on the opposite page, these are 2 other rival species, but they're misfits. So I'm trying to having a hard time understanding what direction I'm trying to go.
They're like, what are you doing?
So there's that's a little Australopithecus, like Lucy. And the other guy on the other branch is a Homo habilis. And Homo habilis was the first tool maker. Homo habilis means able human. So they were the first ones to create a stone ship. So they think in my book, they think they're the ultimate in human models. And they don't like these slender, sleek newcomers that are using fire in a very
cooking their food and stuff like
that. Putting their food in their fire, man. That's an abomination.
Nice.
Wow, I did read the first issue of Tuki, and I want to say from what I read, I can't wait to see more of the story and where it goes. And that book that you just held in your hand looks very exciting. I'm into this story a lot. I'm excited by your knowledge of evolution, and it comes at me in such a nice way too, because you've done it in another great, fantastic cartoonish style. It's cartoonish, it's friendly, it's fun, it's in some sense it's educational. Like there's terms in there that I didn't even know, and the terms that you've discussed on this podcast with us, I didn't even know. So that's amazing, man. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Carlo, let's close this out.
Yeah. So Jeff, again, thank you for coming on and spending your time with us. And is there anything out there that you want our listeners to know about you?
No, the first issue of Tuki is out. The second one is completed, and it will be shipping to stores in July 5th. Tuki book 2 will come out.
Awesome. You're gonna be at San Diego Comic-Con, right? I believe.
Yep, I will. In fact, this is going to be the last year we take the big booth set up. So I'll still continue to go after that, but we're gonna let the new generation take over our prime spot.
Nice. So folks, if you're going to San Diego Comic-Con, you want to see the big setup, this is the last chance. So go check out Jeff at the San Diego Comic-Con. It's nice.
Hey, listen, I just want to thank you, Jeff, for coming through, man. It was enjoyable listening to your stories, and definitely, as an artist, you're painting pictures in our mind as you're taking us through your stories. And I definitely appreciate that, man. And, shout out to OSU and being out there in Ohio half the time, definitely. And we're definitely looking forward to you getting your animation started, because we all like to share and consume our media different ways, but some people like to consume it in other ways. So we definitely would like to share that with other people. So hopefully we get that going at some point as well. And shout out to your new book here. And I was going to ask, but I know it's time to go, is just want to say for the readers, where can they find your new book and everything? And we'll definitely post the links in the description.
Very cool. Thanks, Dion. Yeah, and I appreciate you guys. It was fun talking to you guys. All of my books are still in print. Bone, Wrestle, Tuki. DC publishes Shazam, the Monstrous Society of Evil. They're all still in print. They're all available at comic book shops. They're available at brick and mortar shops, and they're available online, pretty much anywhere. I have a Twitter feed called Jeff Smith's Bone, and I did not make it up, like staff.
Why are you laughing there, Paul?
Because I might have to explain to Microsoft why I'm following Jeff Smith's Bone.
And I have a website called boneville.com where you get all this, get any information about stuff.
Awesome.
Are you guys going to be? Do you guys go to shows? Are you guys going to be in San Diego?
I won't be at San Diego. I'll be at MegaCon.
Yep, and I'll be at MegaCon, Orlando.
All right.
So
Well,
I'm still
when
toss
is
up for
that?
San Diego.
When is Mega?
It is the
4 weeks from today.
It's the 19th through the 22nd.
Yep.
Ah.
Yeah, MegaCon.
Cool.
In Orlando, right? In Orlando.
So if you want to
Orlando.
make from Orlando. So if you want to make a small drive and come say hi. No.
Yeah. I actually think I'm going to be back in Ohio in a month. So
Oh, there you go.
weather's getting nice up there, man. Ohio is
Yeah.
a food town. It is a foodie town. Everywhere from campus all the way downtown. Oh man. Short
Nice.
Well,
Key West
so-
is not a foodie town. It's a beautiful town. I love it. But it's all the food is like vacation food, like
Yeah.
giant hamburgers and
I try to tell my brothers down in Florida, like, this is where everything is made up here. They if you talking about food, that's all they do is food up
Yeah.
here.
well,
beef. corn.
just to close it out for our viewers, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. And see you guys next time.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks.